What's up everybody, I'm Derek, this is Rocking E Forge, and today I am going unscripted once again and answering common questions that I get as a blacksmith. Now to preface this video, I am a level 1 certified blacksmith in the California Blacksmithing Association, and I frequently get questions in person from people who find out that I'm a blacksmith, questions on my YouTube video comments, questions on TikTok video comments. Haven't been on there in a while, so if you're looking for TikTok content from me, I may go back there once I get some more free time, but I'm primarily sticking with YouTube at this point. I figured I would take some time to go over some of those questions in a talking head style video to hopefully teach you some things and kind of put that information out there. All right, so the first question that I frequently get asked as a blacksmith, one of the most common questions actually, and one that I'm going to pair with the second question are, how long have you been blacksmithing and what made you get into the art or the craft of blacksmithing? So I've been blacksmithing for a little over 3 years, and the reason that I got into blacksmithing is because I've always been a bit of a weapons nerd, grew up playing video games and stuff like that, and just loved the weapons and the blades that you could get in those games. I loved watching movies like Lord of the Rings, Pirates of the Caribbean, and I've always just been kind of fascinated by edged weaponry. When I was younger, started to kind of collect pocket knives and never go anywhere without one, and as a result, I kind of paired my fascination with bladed weapons and things into a hobby when I made my first knife in high school with a journeyman smith who was a friend of the family. Now that blade was a large camp knife that I just ground out of a bar of steel. Blade makers, knife makers call that stock removal, and not quite blacksmithing, but still gets into the metallurgical processes of heat treating and tempering and things like that. And that was my first taste into the world that is knife making, bladesmithing, blacksmithing, what have you. And I fell in love with it at that point, and then through college I continued to watch blacksmithing YouTube videos and different things like that, and started to buy tools here and there until I finally got myself all of the tools that I wanted to in order to start, and finally started actually laying a hammer to hot steel just a few years ago. All right, the second/third question that I frequently get as a blacksmith and typically on my videos is, where do you get your tools? Or where did I get my specific tools? Frequently this question revolves around my hammers. This is a 3.5 pound rounding hammer from Royer Hammers on Etsy. I think he's got an Etsy shop. He probably has an Instagram. Great hammer. A little bit heavy, especially for a beginner, but it's done me well for my entire, hobby career at this point, so I cannot recommend his hammers enough. Phenomenal work, beautiful piece. And then this hammer is a 2.5 pound crosspeen made by Front Step Forge, who I found on Instagram, and you can reach out to him on Instagram on there, or I imagine he has his own Etsy shop and things like that. Phenomenal hammer, and honestly my primary hammer for when I'm making a lot of things. I can swing this a lot longer than I can the 3.5 pound. As far as tongs go, this is the first pair of Wolfjaw tongs I ever got, and honestly I think these were a Christmas gift from my parents, so I'm not sure where they came from, but you can get tongs from places like Blacksmith Depot. You can also pick up tong kits from places like Ken's Custom Iron, which I forgot to mention in my top 4 tools that you need to get in a blacksmithing video, which is right up here. Totally forgot to mention that, but a great option if you are looking for an inexpensive pair of tongs that you just need to put a little bit of work into. The tong blanks that you can get from Ken's Custom Iron, like this pair of knife making tongs featured in this video, are great. All you have to do is forge out the reins, draw out the jaws of the tongs, and then rivet everything together, and they have appropriately sized rivets on the Ken's Custom Iron website, and they turn out great. And if you're looking for an option for hand making tongs without putting in all of the extensive work, these are a great option, and they're like $15 for the kit, so great option there. I have in fact handmade my own pair of tongs featured in that video, and this is a much more extensive process. I made this pair of tongs from a single 3 to 4 foot long piece of 3/4 inch rebar and I did use a rivet that I got from Ken's Custom Iron in order to rivet everything together, but everything else was hand hammered to this shape and then riveted together and refined, and a lot of fiddling and adjusting went into the jaws. But these are great and a great option. If you're looking to give yourself a challenge in the workshop, tongs are a great way to do that, and they give you the opportunity to really customize a pair of tongs in just the way that you are looking for, as opposed to buying them. And then finally, you can get tongs off of Amazon. This is a pair of nearly nameless tongs that are actually really good quality that I got off of Amazon as a Christmas gift again. Pro tip, if you have a blacksmith in your life, tongs, hammers, tools in general are an excellent Christmas gift, birthday gift, etc. But I got these off of Amazon. I've got some that are like these that are really good quality, and I've got some pair of tongs off of Amazon that are not so great quality. I'm considering making a tongs of Amazon video, like testing review video or of some sort. So if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comment section. Now, as far as an anvil and a forge, I got the Cliff Carroll anvil off of Centaur Forge, and you can also get anvils off of places like Blacksmith Depot. And my forge is a 2-burner Mr. Volcano Hero 2, and unfortunately Mr. Volcano has stopped producing at least their forge bodies. At the time of making this video, you can still buy the components other than the stainless steel sleeve or body of the forge, all on Amazon if you just look up Mr. Volcano. That can facilitate you building your own forge. Otherwise, you know, there are a number of forges out there. I started with 2-burner propane Majestic Forge, and that did me for a couple of years. Pretty much anything that you go with will probably do you well, at least in the short term. Now, the next question that I frequently get, along with where do you get your tools, is what are the best tools for a beginner blacksmith or for getting into blacksmithing? And I've kind of already discussed that in my top 4 tools for beginners video, but I'll briefly discuss that if you're just getting into blacksmithing, you're looking to try out the craft, you should not be spending a ton of money to buy the best of the best, the nicest looking, the most beautiful, the most handcrafted tools that you can find. I highly recommend starting out with a $10 engineer's hammer that you reface and grind or file. In order to make it suitable for blacksmithing, start with a railroad track as an anvil, or a inexpensive Vevor or Harbor Freight anvil. Go buy an inexpensive propane forge, maybe even try out one of the ones on Amazon. If you're interested in me testing out a couple of Amazon forges, let me know in the comments section if that's something you'd like to see in the future. But when it comes to getting into the craft of blacksmithing, it doesn't have to be a very high expense, and I would recommend you avoid buying the expensive tools for simply the fact that you might not enjoy this craft and you don't want to be out $2,000 and trying to sell that stuff for a loss because you decided ultimately you didn't enjoy this hobby. Go with the inexpensive stuff, build your hammer skill, build your just general blacksmithing knowledge, and then decide if that's something you want to continue to invest in. And don't worry about the dude on YouTube or on TikTok that has a beautiful power hammer or something. There are tools out there that cost tens of thousands of dollars at entry-level costs, and that's just something you don't need to get into the craft. The next question that I frequently get as a blacksmith is, why do blacksmiths in general tap the anvil with their hammer when they are not actively striking a piece of steel? The answer to that question kind of varies depending on the blacksmith that you ask. Some, myself included, tend to just kind of keep up a certain rhythm in their hammering. Not that that rhythm even stays consistent between heats, but just whatever rhythm I'm hammering out on a piece of steel for a given heat, I just like to kind of bounce. They shouldn't be full force blows into the anvil face because that can damage both your hammer and your anvil, but you will frequently see blacksmiths just kind of bouncing the hammer off the anvil. For me, it's just kind of a habit that I picked up while I am looking at a piece of steel, looking for the next place for my hammer to land, to even out the surface or get a closer look before I really come down with a hammer. Sometimes you can see where you want to hit it as you're turning a piece on the anvil or as the hammer's coming down. Sometimes you want to take a breath and look at it before you hit it again. And for me, the little bounces along the anvil face is just a good way to kind of keep the energy or the rhythm in the hammer while I'm taking that split second to look, and then I pick the hammer back up and hammer again. Other blacksmiths have ideas that based on the rebound of the anvil itself, you are still imparting energy back into the hammer to make it easier to pick it up for the next blow as you're pausing or things like that. I think for me, it's really just a habit and it doesn't really serve that express purpose. It might be kind of a nice side effect of that, but in the long run, it's really just kind of a habit for me. There are also many blacksmiths out there that tell you that it's a bad habit, that you're damaging your hammer and your anvil, and it's something that you should at least strive not to do. That's a strong possibility, especially if you are putting force into that bounce on the face. That's two hardened faces or pieces of steel in contact with each other with nothing in between, which certainly isn't great and can degrade your tools or your anvil over time, but as long as they're light bounces or light taps, shouldn't be too overly detrimental. Another question that I frequently get, and that was really revolving around the process of getting my level 1 certification in the California Blacksmithing Association, is what does the level 1 certification really do for you? And the answer to that question is not a ton. A lot of it is personal satisfaction for having kind of proven your skills to a higher level smith. A master smith, or at least an instructor certified smith, is required to look at the quality of the tools and the projects that you made, and you're supposed to demonstrate to them that you have a working knowledge of how to blacksmith in order to achieve the level 1 certification. And there's a level 1, level 2, level 3, at least in the CBA and the Abana, and I'll put CBA and Abana down here, what they stand for, corresponding to novice, journeyman, and master smiths. But the certification, especially at level 1, doesn't really do much for you. It's not like a professional engineer's exam or some sort of like structural engineering certification. It doesn't allow you to go get different jobs, generally speaking, unless you're going to get a job at a smithy, being an instructor, or higher level certifications like the master certification, or at least in the CBA, there are express instructor certifications that allow you to certify other blacksmiths and teach them at higher levels and do demonstrations at official CBA or Abana events. So in the blacksmithing community, the certification does mean something, but in the greater real world, it doesn't really have a huge impact on what a blacksmith can and can't do. But just know that like the level 1 certification means that I had to prove to a higher level smith that I had the skill and I made high enough quality work that the master smith who looked at my pieces was satisfied and awarded me that certification. Really just kind of a recognition of skill and for personal satisfaction was effectively the reason that I did it, and I really enjoy the ability to hang that certification on my wall. It's an award, and that's really all there is to it, honestly. In the interest of not making this video crazy long, those are the questions that I am going to answer in this video today. If you want to see a part 2 of me answering common questions that blacksmiths get or questions that I've received on YouTube or TikTok comments, let me know in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell. If you want to support me in the channel further, please consider becoming an honorary striker on my Patreon. That link is in the description below the video, or consider becoming a member of my YouTube channel. And as always, keep on rocking.